prices are one of the most important measurements within economics. We can think back to just the general supply and demand model, where equilibrium price is really the clearinghouse that kind of guides how much quantity will be purchased by individuals and how much quantity of the product will be supplied by firms. And so if that's the case, then the measurement of prices in the economy is also incredibly important, and we keep a close eye on it. And that really leads us into inflation. Inflation itself is the measure of increases in the overall price level of goods and services in the economy. And I'll underline overall here, because really what we're looking at is you can have changes in prices for any number of goods. You could go into the grocery store today and then go into it tomorrow, and you might see a price change in any number of goods, in eggs or in coffee or something like that. Inflation is when those prices are generally increasing, and for the most part, in kind of modern economic history, definitely of America and for most of the Western developed world, inflation is kind of what we generally see, low levels of inflation where prices are increasing year over year. Deflation would be the flip side of that coin, where it's a measure of decreases in the overall price level. Now we can get granular data, and we can figure out inflation or price changes for specific goods and services, but what we're really looking at, and this is what gets us to the consumer price index, is overall price level changes in goods and services across the economy. And so the consumer price index, the CPI as it's often referred to, is the measure of overall cost of goods and services purchased by a typical consumer. And we do this in a certain way. We say that the typical consumer, we say that this is a basket of goods. They purchase a basket of goods. And this gets into one of the main things with the consumer price index, which is that basket of goods is incredibly important as far as how much we weight, how much of a good a typical person, a typical consumer would purchase. And so we'll take a look at a little bit of that from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, who reports consumer price index on a monthly basis. And then updates that data as well. Really what we're doing is we're measuring a weighted basket of goods, and it really reflects the prices of goods bought by consumers. So this reflects the prices of goods purchased by consumers. The consumer price index itself, the one that is typically reported and that we'll take a look at, is the CPI-U, CPI-U. And CPI-U is for all urban consumers. And what we try to do with these CPIs, we create a basket of goods that are purchased, and then we go out, we find the prices, we weight that basket by how much of the spending is actually in housing versus buying a TV versus buying milk, for example. And then we calculate those prices for individual years, and as a result we can then index this. We can create an index there that can, in essence, give us a measure of inflation. So what is the CPI itself? Well, CPI, the consumer price index, is equal to the price of a basket of goods in the current year, and then that's divided by, we'll go back to our kind of case of a base year that we'll be comparing information to, and so then this is really the price divided by the price of a basket of goods where the quantity doesn't change in the base year. And then from here, once we have CPIs, once we have this index for all number of years, then we can just compare those CPIs from year to year, and we get this overall level of price change, typically in inflation in prices. So this really gets us into the introduction of consumer price index. What we're going to take a look at next is an example of calculating it before we really start looking at the CPI-U and understanding kind of inflation in America over the last few years.